Hey guys, welcome to Appalachian Homestead. Pater with you. I'm determined to make this video, and I just want to let you know that every force of nature around me is making lots of noise. We have multiple tractors running, lawnmowers running, chainsaws running, Great Pyrenees barking. So if you hear all these distractions, this is the most quiet spot on the farm because everybody's working. So it's 85 degrees, which isn't that bad. It's time to milk the cow. It's time to make dinner. It's time to do all kinds of evening chores. And I'm covering our potatoes again. My husband's working in the garden. I'm working in the garden. My children are helping cook dinner, and one's folding laundry. So it's a full working evening. And this is a subject that I want to talk about real quick, and I'm going to watch my time on this because I don't want this to come across as a rant. Can you hear the tractor and the dog? And anyway, they're baling hay. So I'm out here and I'm pulling my second wave of cover up for my potatoes, which is always dirt. And then I come back again with straw. So I make everything work. I try my best. And this is a subject that I want you to think about because I've hesitated making videos like this because I don't want to come across as scary. I think a lot of folks like to make scary videos to scare people. Part of the things that they say is very true, and I think sometimes they do it for, a little bit of shock factor. I don't want that here. I want you to see what we do. I want to have a fellowship on my channel. I want to learn as much as teach because I'm learning a lot from you guys. We're learning too, okay? And we learn more and more every year. So here's the deal. I see videos and I see all these blogs and I get sucked into the beauty and the winning of everything just like you do. But I have to tell you, the more that I homestead and the more that we farm and the more that I milk and sow and can and do all of these things, you know what? I realize you can't really BS a whole lot on this stuff, okay? I mean, let's be honest, when I watch certain videos and I watch certain things and, I don't necessarily critique, but I do look at them and go, no, not really. So here's the question. We have to be real about this. This is not a political talk. This is nothing else. This is just, can you feed your family? Let me tell you why I'm doing this video. So here it is, late spring, we're moving into crop season. It's really important to get a lot of things in the ground and to try to be successful. This goes back to my food conversation, food storage conversation. Can you feed your family? This is a scary topic. I really want you to think about this. So I've led into this and kind of eased you into it. Can you feed your family? Let me show you something. So I just uploaded this such a sweetie cutie video about these carrots that we finally got, quite a bit of success out of. I didn't grow that much because it was experimental, but when you look at the crop on the ground and you're pulling all these carrots up and you're like, I did so good. Oh my gosh. Do I can them? Do I hydrate them? What do I do with them? Do you know how many carrots I really got? That. What? That. Probably 2 pounds worth. You actually take them inside and you cut the tops off, that you're going to feed back to your, which again, this is experimental, so for me to expect a lot is unrealistic. But, this is what we got. Do you honestly think that I'm going to feed a family of 5? With this type of food amount? A few potatoes here and a few tomatoes there and a few carrots here, and some whatever. You're not going to feed your family. And this is a concern that I have and that I speak often and very blunt about actually, particularly with Miss Homestead Lady. You won't find a better homesteader than Miss Homestead Lady. I'm serious. I plug this woman every chance that I get. And she's brutally honest. That's why she's so good. Because we will just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. This is why I tell you, it is wonderful, and you should learn to garden and homestead and can and grow and stow and do all of these things. But you need to have an honest conversation with yourself about how much food you're growing. Okay? And you need to have an honest conversation with yourself and with your spouse. And when you look at videos and you see certain types of gardening and cute container gardening and back to Eden garden, and they're doing these little plots of things, does that pertain to you? And would that feed your family in a crisis? No. It's not. You need to know exactly how much food it takes to feed your family. You need to know what type of crops you can grow if you have certain allergies or not. Frankly, dislikes go out the door. I know some people say, well, I don't like pinto beans. I don't like this. I get it. But you need to understand historically what has fed people, what can be grown in your area, what you do like for the most part, but what you need in order to nourish your body. Now, I can't answer these questions for you, and I'm not even going to try. Nor am I going to sit here with a big old chart and line up, you need so much protein and you need X amount. That is your homework for you to do. But I think there's a lot of misleading information out there about how you should garden, when you should garden, how you should store, and how much you need. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're living in a situation where you honestly think, a couple of raised beds is going to feed a family of 3 to 5 in I'm telling you, you are so deceived. Now, some people like to garden and, just to learn and to experiment and to have a little salsa garden and all of these things. I have no problem with that. And all of that is fine and dandy and wonderful because you know why? Food Lion, Kroger, and Piggly Wiggly are down the road. If you are trying to push yourself to sustain in a potential food crisis situation, in any crisis situation, or you're trying to feed your farm, because here's the deal. Let's pretend you do get into a food crisis situation. Okay, I'm feeding a family of 5, but I'm not foolish to think that there's also other people around me, family that is around me potentially, friends, and I have a whole lot of animals to feed. So here's why this came up. My corn is doing squat. I've got beautiful strawberries. I've got blueberries abundant. I've got some carrots. My potatoes are doing really well, but I've got 2 rows of beans. 3 have come up. I've got corn, heirloom corn, bought this year. Brand new seeds I wanted to try. Nothing. Beautiful soil, sown perfectly, watered, fertilized, everything. I think 6 have come up. Now, I'm going to replant. This is what I want to tell you. This is not a glorious life all the time. This is about hard work. This is about commitment. This is about failure just as much as it is triumph. And it is understanding what it takes to feed you. Now, that may not be your motivation, but I know for a lot of people it is. And for the first year or 2, you're testing your wings. You're learning to fly. You're learning to try new things and to figure out what works for your farm, to build your soil, and all of that. But what I really want to tell you is do not be deceived. I challenge you, and we're actually discussing this. We already have ideas and know, but nonetheless, I want to take, a 30 to 60 day period and test honestly, what do we eat? How much do we eat? What do we have in our diet and how can we replace it? What is suitable for the energy that we need? I'm going to tell you, if you are expecting to run a farm and you're working crops and you're milking a dairy cow by hand, and you're raising children, and you're just constantly on your feet, it takes an enormous amount of energy, okay? The Country Living magazine pictures are beautiful, but that's not real in a lot of living. Don't take that the wrong way, Country Living magazine, but you know what I mean? I mean, it's just, it's sweat and it's work. A lot of these people that, you know, talk about showing their life, they want to get the most for the least amount of work. Well, that might work for you. I got 3 kids. We're working our tails off. I want my kids to work. I want my kids to experience sweat, because if push ever came to shove, that's what it's going to take to survive. Okay? I'm not trying to cheat, you know, I'm not trying to finesse it to get the short way out. I want to eat. And a lot of that is going to take, along with that, for in a lot of cases, you're going to have to butcher some animals. I'm sorry. The diet today for many, many people, see, this is the thing, is a lot of people are like, well, I'll just grow this and sustain. Okay, well, that's fine and dandy too, but if your Swiss chard and your spinach doesn't come up real well, like my corn and my beans aren't, what are you going to eat? So, this is a kind of, I'm sitting here and I'm pulling this dirt up, man. I'm just pulling and pulling and pulling, and I'm looking over at my corn and I'm like, I cannot believe this. And you need to hear this. There's a lot of failure here. You know, things don't come up. You've got to replant. Things that you thought were going to work fail. And in a crisis situation, there's no room for failure. You'll starve to death. Your kids will starve to death. My kids aren't starving to death. We're going to work, and we're going to replant, and we're going to keep at it, and we're going to be realistic. I'm just saying that I have thousands of square feet of gardening going on right now. I haven't been able to figure out exactly what we've got this year. We're pushing 8,000 to 10,000 square feet. That's a lot. That's a huge house of gardening. I'm telling you right now, I am not convinced that if I pushed away the entities around me, Walmart, Food Lion, Costco, blah, 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 the things that supplement us, we might starve. I have figured alone. I want you to think about this real quick. And I'm sorry for being rude. Just a little cutie here. If my family eats 3 pounds of beans a week, 2 to 3 pounds of just ground beef, guys, nothing fancy, a week, and 3 pints of tomatoes a week, for me to pull together some type of goulashy, spaghetti, meatloafy, pinto beans, cornbread, nothing fancy. Nothing fancy at all. Which is not even really realistic in terms of diet, in terms of, if you look back at Appalachian Diet and how people sustained 150 years ago, that's another whole mind-blowing topic. Do you know how much that is in a year? In order to get over 100 pounds of ground beef in your freezer, that's a whole steer. We took a whole steer, and I got 109 pounds of ground beef. Now, I got a ton of other meat. We know that. But I'm just saying, I'm thinking about what it takes in order to have just, you know, because you don't think about that 2 or 3 a pound of this, a pound of that, a pound of... Put it in terms of how much you eat in a week and relate that to a large time period. Where are you going to get that? How are you going to get that? How are you going to replace that? If you're not going to eat beef, that's a whole lot of beans or other sources of protein. And I'm not here to argue, you know, how you replace or what you like or what you do. Okay, so don't go there. But I'm just saying, I think there is a lot of miscommunication going on. And there's always the good side of everything. And right now there's a lot of good side. We have it good. But what if you don't at some point? What are you going to do? It's a lot to think about. So I encourage you to really be realistic in your food storage. To be really realistic with your skill sets. That's what this channel is about, is building skill sets. Because that's what it takes. Whether you like to do certain things or not is irrelevant. It's, do you know how to do it? Because 9 times out of 10, the people around you do not know how to do it. Sorry to say. Grow food. A lot of people do not have a clue how to grow food. They don't. I cannot explain to you, even with the little bit of knowledge that I have and experience that, comparatively speaking to some people I know that I have, the questions that come in, and they should come in. But people don't know, they want to know. We are so far removed from the whole notion of growing our own food and self-sustaining, that to the point where I'm honestly saying, if something ever really truly happened, and we could name a numerous amount of things that could happen, there's going to be a lot of chaos, because a lot of people are going to be hungry. So understand real quick what you need for you, what you need for your family. And I'm telling you, while the typical backyard garden, while is a very, very good thing, because you need to learn, you got to start somewhere, and you got to learn, you got to do. I'm just saying, do understand and be very realistic that what you see in magazines, or, like, for example, a lot of folks want to know why I didn't grow the 3 sisters again this year. Because it didn't grow enough food for us. I'm very well aware of the fact that my ancestors grew in mounds and companion planting, and that's because that's what worked for them. I'm not convinced that would work for us here right now. Now, if that's all I have, and that's the option I have in terms of trellising and feeding my soil, because all of these other things are not available to me, then that's the route I'm going to go. I've done it. But I'm also, last year when I grew it and I looked at it, realistically, it wasn't feeding my family for it, the time period that I expected it to. But you have to go through these trials and different things to experiment and to understand. And, 5-7 years later, this is where I'm at. And I'm just saying, be very realistic with what you're doing, what your expectations are, and how many carrots you expect to put in your pantry. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And yes, it's a rough video, but I want it to be real for y'all. You need to see real, and that's what we're here for. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. If you like it, hey, hang around. We'll talk to you soon. Get gardening, get moving, because some folks are going to need you one day. I guarantee it. Y'all take care out there.